The sound of a spoon tapping against a wine glass silenced the whole room. My sister, Lila, stood up at the head of the table. She looked perfect, glowing in the candlelight. My parents, Thomas and Marlene, looked up at her with pure adoration. Lila smiled, a wide, triumphant smile. "I have big news," she announced. "Mom and Dad have decided to sign the family house over to me. They want to ensure it goes to the daughter who will actually take care of it. Avery gets nothing." She actually said it out loud. "Avery gets nothing." Cheers erupted around the Thanksgiving table. My aunt clapped loudly. Lila's fiancé hugged her. My mother looked at me with a smug expression, waiting for me to make a scene. She wanted me to cry. She wanted me to ruin the dinner so she could call me jealous. But I didn't cry. I felt a strange, cold calm. I knew the secret hidden in the paperwork. I knew what getting the house actually meant. I slowly placed my fork down on the table. The metal made a soft clink. I locked eyes with my father. His smile vanished. "Dad," I said, my voice quiet but clear. "Should I tell them the truth or will you?" The cheering died instantly. The room froze. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me, where in the world are you watching from? To understand why I asked my father that question, why I was willing to freeze the room at Thanksgiving, you have to understand the life I lived before that night. You have to understand that in the Dalton house, love was a limited resource. It was like a pie that was too small for 4 people, and my parents gave the biggest slices to my sister Lila. I grew up unseen. It wasn't that my parents beat me or starved me. It was quieter than that. It was the kind of neglect that happens in the open, the kind that looks normal to everyone else until you look closer. Lila was 2 years younger than me. From the moment she was born, she was the sun in my parents' sky. She was loud, demanding, and charming. She knew how to smile to get what she wanted. My mother, Marlene, saw herself in Lila. My father, Thomas, saw a princess he needed to protect. I was different. I was quiet. I liked to read. I liked to figure things out on my own. And somewhere along the way, my parents decided that because I could figure things out on my own, I should have to. I remember when I was 16. I had been saving my babysitting money for a year to buy a used car. I had a jar in my closet stuffed with wrinkled $5 bills. I needed a car to get to my after-school job at the library. One night at dinner, Lila, who was 14, was crying. She wanted to go to a specialized cheerleading camp in Florida. It cost $2,000. "We just don't have the liquid cash right now, honey," my dad said, looking sad. Lila slammed her fork down. "But everyone is going. If I don't go, I'll be cut from the varsity squad next year, you promised." My mother looked at me. She didn't look at me with love. She looked at me with calculation. "Avery," she said, "you have that money saved up for the car." I stopped eating. "That's for my car, Mom. I need it for work." "But Lila needs this now," my mother said. Her voice wasn't asking, it was telling. "You can keep saving. You're so good at saving. You're the responsible one." "Lila is. Well, she needs this experience. It's for her future." "No," I said. My father sighed, a heavy, disappointed sound. "Avery, don't be selfish. We are a family. We help each other." They took the money. They guilted me until I handed over the jar. Lila went to Florida and came back with a tan and new friends. I walked to the library in the rain for another 6 months. That was the pattern of my life. I was the independent one. They used that word like a compliment, but it was a weapon. If I got good grades, they said, "Good job, Avery, we knew you could do it." If Lila passed a test she had failed twice, they threw a dinner party. They stopped seeing me as a daughter. I became a resource. I was the backup plan. I was the one who didn't need anything, so I didn't get anything. When I graduated college, I got a job offer in Chicago. It was a junior analyst position. It paid well, and more importantly, it was 3 hours away from home. When I told them I was moving, my mother cried. But she didn't cry because she would miss me. She cried because she was losing her helper. "Who is going to help me organize the garage?" she asked. "Who is going to pick Lila up from her internship?" "Lila is 22, I said. "She can drive." "You're abandoning us," my father said. "After everything we did for you." "What did you do for me?" I wanted to ask. But I didn't. I just packed my boxes and left. Living in Chicago was the first time I felt free. I paid my own rent. I bought my own food. I didn't have to watch my sister get handed everything while I scraped by. But the distance didn't stop the phone calls. They only called when they needed something. "Avery, the water heater broke. Can you lend us $500? "Avery, Lila needs a deposit for her apartment, just for a month." "Avery, we're a little short on the property tax." I usually said no. And every time I said no, they called me cold. They called me ungrateful. They told the rest of the family, my aunts, uncles, and cousins, that I had become a big city snob who didn't care about her family. At family gatherings, I was the outsider. My cousins would look at me strangely. My Aunt Carolyn would make passive-aggressive comments like, "It must be nice to have so much money you can just ignore your parents." I never defended myself. I just took it. I thought that was my role, to be the strong one, to be the villain in their story so they could feel better about themselves. The only person who saw the truth was Grandma Eleanor. Grandma Eleanor was my father's mother. She was a tough woman with sharp eyes and arthritis in her hands. She lived in a small assisted living facility near my parents' house. When I came home for holidays, I would go sit with her. She was the only one who asked me how I was. She didn't ask for money. She asked about my job. She asked about the books I was reading. One afternoon, about a year before this Thanksgiving dinner, I was sitting by her bed. She was holding my hand. Her skin felt like dry paper. "Avery," she whispered, "you are too good for them." "They're my family, Grandma," I said. "They are leeches," she said sharply. "Especially Thomas." I raised him, but somewhere along the way he became weak. He can't say no to Marlene, and Marlene can't say no to Lila. They feed off each other. She squeezed my hand. "You have to be careful, Avery. They see your strength and they resent it, but they will also try to use it. Don't let them." "I won't," I promised. "Lila is a bottomless pit," Grandma said. "She has never been told no in her life. When the real world hits her, she will crumble, and your parents will try to use you as the cement to hold her together." I didn't know then how right she was. I didn't know that my parents were already drowning. Grandma Eleanor passed away 3 months later. At her funeral, Lila cried loudly and dramatically, draping herself over the casket. My parents comforted her. I stood in the back, wearing black, dry-eyed. I grieved in silence. After the funeral, my father came up to me. "Lila is really taking this hard," he said. "She needs a vacation to clear her head. We were thinking of sending her to a resort in Mexico." "That sounds nice for her," I said. "Well," he cleared his throat. "Funerals are expensive, Avery. Grandma didn't leave much. We were hoping you could contribute for Lila's mental health." I looked at my father. We were standing 10 feet from his mother's grave. "No," I said. He turned red. "You are heartless. Your grandmother loved Lila." "Grandma loved honesty," I said. "And I'm honestly not paying for Lila to drink margaritas because she's sad." I walked away. I drove back to Chicago that night. I didn't talk to them for 3 months. I thought that was the worst it could get. I thought that was the bottom. I thought the worst thing they could do was ask for money and insult me. I was wrong. That was just the surface. The real betrayal was happening behind closed doors, involving paperwork, banks, and my name. They weren't just bad with money. They were desperate. And desperation makes people do terrible things, even to their own children, especially to the child they think is strong enough to take it. The call came 6 months before Thanksgiving. It was a Tuesday evening in May. I had just walked into my apartment in Chicago after a long day at work. I was heating up leftover soup when my phone buzzed. It was my father. I stared at the screen for a moment. We hadn't spoken since the argument at the funeral. A pit formed in my stomach. I almost let it go to voicemail, but the old habit of being the responsible one kicked in. If something was wrong, I had to answer. "Hello," I answered. "Avery," his voice was tight, strained. "We need you to come home this weekend." "I can't," I said immediately. "I have work, I have plans." "Cancel them," he said. "It wasn't a request. It's important. It's about the house." My heart skipped a beat. "Is the house okay? Is everyone okay?" "Everyone is fine," he said quickly. "It's just paperwork, financial planning. Your mother and I are getting older, and with Grandma gone, we started thinking about the estate. We want to secure the future. We're doing some refinancing to get a better interest rate. And since your name was on that old cosign for the car years ago, the bank needs you to sign off on some things to clear the title." It sounded plausible. Vaguely, I remembered cosigning for a small loan when I was fresh out of college to help them fix the roof, a loan I had paid off myself because they forgot. "Can't you just mail it to me?" I asked. "Or email it? I can sign it here." "No," he said. "The notary has to be here. It's a specific bank policy. We need to do this in person. Please, Avery, we're trying to be responsible. We're trying to fix our finances so we don't have to ask you for help anymore." That was the hook. The promise that if I did this one thing, they would stop asking me for money. "Fine," I said. "I'll drive down Saturday morning." "Good," he said. "Be here by noon." He hung up. I drove the 3 hours home on Saturday with a knot in my chest. I listened to podcasts to drown out my thoughts, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into a trap. When I pulled into the driveway, everything looked normal. The lawn was mowed. Lila's car was in the driveway, a newer SUV that I knew she couldn't afford. I walked inside. The house smelled like coffee and lemon polish. My mother was in the kitchen, wiping down the counter. My father was sitting at the dining table. The table was covered in papers, stacks of them. "Hi, honey," Mom said. She sounded too cheerful. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. She came over and hugged me, but her body was stiff. Hungry, I made cinnamon rolls. "I'm fine," I said. I looked at Dad. "Let's get this over with. I have to drive back tonight." Sit down, Dad said, gesturing to the chair opposite him. I sat. He pushed a thick folder toward me. It was open to a page with a yellow "Sign Here" sticker. "So," he started, clasping his hands. "Like I said, we are refinancing the house, getting a lower rate. It will save us about $400 a month. That's money we can save for retirement." "That sounds smart," I said. I reached for the folder. "We just need your signature here," he pointed to the sticker. "And here. And on the back page." He handed me a pen. He was holding it out, almost shoving it into my hand. I took the pen, but I didn't sign. I looked at the page. The text was small and dense. "Dad," I said, "this says transfer of title and liability. This doesn't look like a standard refinance." "It's just bank jargon," he said quickly. Sweat was beading on his forehead. "It's just how they phrase it. Because we're changing the loan terms, they have to transfer it to the new terms." I flipped to the front of the packet. I saw numbers, big numbers. "Dad," I said, "why is the loan amount $140,000? You bought this house 20 years ago. You should only owe about $40,000 left on the mortgage." My mother walked over and put a hand on my shoulder. Her grip was tight. "Avery, don't interrogate your father. He's been on the phone with the bank all week. It's complicated, the equity, the market." She was throwing out words she didn't understand. "I need to read this," I said. "We don't have time," Dad snapped. "The notary is coming in 20 minutes. We have to have it ready." "Then the notary can wait," I said. I closed the folder and pulled it toward me. "I'm not signing something I haven't read." "You don't trust us," Mom said. Her voice rose to that shrill pitch she used when she wanted to play the victim. "We are your parents. We fed you, we clothed you, and you think we are trying to trick you." "I think you're bad with money," I said calmly. "And I think you're desperate. I'm taking this to the living room." I stood up. My father stood up too. He looked angry, really angry. "Give me the papers, Avery," he demanded. "No," I said. "If you want me to sign, I read them. If you take them back, I leave and I don't sign anything." We had a standoff in the kitchen. The air was thick with tension. Finally, Dad sat back down. "Fine, read them, but you're being ridiculous." I took the folder to the living room. I sat on the couch and started reading. The more I read, the more confused I got. It wasn't just a refinance. There were terms about assumption of debt and guarantor status. I didn't understand all the legal language, but I understood enough to be scared. I pulled out my phone and took pictures of the key pages, then I stood up. "I can't sign this today," I said. "What?" Mom screamed from the kitchen. "I need my lawyer to look at it," I lied. I didn't really have a lawyer, just a friend from college who went to law school. "I don't understand these terms." "You are not leaving with those papers," Dad shouted. "I'm not," I said. "I'm leaving without them. I'm not signing." I grabbed my purse. My father blocked the hallway. For a second I thought he might hit me. He looked desperate, his eyes wild. "Avery, please," he said. His voice cracked. "We need this?" "Why?" I asked. "Why do you need this so badly?" "To fix things," he yelled. "Just sign the damn paper." "Move, Dad," I said. He stared at me, breathing hard. Then he stepped aside. I walked out the door. I got in my car and locked it. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely put the key in the ignition. I drove away, watching them standing in the driveway in my rearview mirror. They looked small and angry. On Monday morning, I took the day off work. I called my friend Sarah, who worked in contract law. I bought her lunch and handed her the photos I had taken on my phone. She looked at them while she ate her salad. Her expression went from casual to serious and then to horrified. She put her fork down. "Avery," she said, "do not sign these under any circumstances." "What is it?" I asked. "Is it a refinance?" "No," Sarah said. "It's a trap." She pointed to a paragraph on the screen. "Your parents aren't refinancing to get a lower rate. They have taken out a second mortgage. A massive one. They have stripped all the equity out of the house. They owe the bank over $100,000 on top of what they already owed." I felt cold. "Okay, but why do they need me?" "Because they can't pay it," Sarah said. "They are in default. I can see the arrears notice here. The bank is threatening to foreclose. This paperwork, It isn't refinancing their loan, it's adding you as a primary borrower. She looked me in the eye. Avery, if you sign this, you aren't just cautioning, you are assuming the entire debt. They are trying to transfer the liability of the loan to you. They want to put the debt in your name. Why would they do that? I whispered. Because they have bad credit, Sarah explained. They can't get a new loan to pay off the old one. But you have good credit, you have a good job. If you sign this, the bank is happy because they have someone new to sue. Your parents get off the hook for the immediate payments, and you get saddled with $100,000 of debt for a house you don't even own. I sat back in the booth. The noise of the restaurant faded away. My parents hadn't called me home to help them save for retirement. They hadn't called me home because they missed me. They had called me home to steal my future. They wanted to take my credit score, my savings, and my financial freedom, and use it to plug the hole they had dug for themselves. And they were going to let me think I was just helping with paperwork. If I had signed those papers, I would be responsible for the mortgage. And when they inevitably stopped paying, because they had no money, the bank would come for me. They would garnish my wages. They would ruin my life. I felt sick. I felt like throwing up. Are you sure? I asked Sarah. I'm 100% sure, she said. This is predatory. And the fact that your parents tried to rush you into signing it without reading, Avery, that's fraud. It's familial fraud, but it's fraud. I drove home to my apartment in a daze. I didn't call them, I didn't scream at them. I just went silent. I realized then that the independent one wasn't just a label. It was a target. They thought I was strong enough to carry their mistakes. They thought I wouldn't notice. Or worse, they thought that even if I did notice, I would do it anyway because I was desperate for their approval. But I wasn't desperate for their approval anymore. I was done. I started digging. If they lied about this, what else were they lying about? I went online. I paid for a background check on my own parents. I searched public property records, and that's when I found the second betrayal. The one that hurt even more than the money. 2 months passed after I walked out of my parents' kitchen. I didn't answer their calls. I let their voicemails pile up. They ranged from angry, "How dare you walk away from your family?" to pathetic, "We just want to talk, we miss you." I spent those months in a state of high alert. I checked my credit report weekly to make sure they hadn't forged my signature. Sarah, my lawyer friend, had warned me it was a possibility. Desperate people do desperate things, she said. Then, on a humid Tuesday in July, the tone shifted. My father called me at work. He called the office line, not my cell. That meant it was an emergency or a calculated move to force me to answer. "Avery Dalton speaking," I answered, keeping my voice professional. "Avery," my father breathed. He sounded wrecked. Thank God I didn't know who else to call. "What's wrong?" I asked, my grip tightening on the phone. Despite everything, the instinct to help was hard to kill. "It's your mother," he said. She needs a procedure, her heart, the stress. "It's getting to her." My stomach dropped. "Is she okay? Is she in the hospital?" "She's home now," he said quickly. "But the doctors say she needs this treatment. And the insurance, you know how it is. They won't cover all of it. We need $3,000, Avery. Just until I get paid next month. Please, it's for your mother's heart." I closed my eyes. $3,000. It was a lot of money, but I had it. I had been saving aggressively since the incident with the papers. "Okay," I said slowly. "Send me the bill." "What? The bill?" I repeated. "Send me the invoice from the hospital or the clinic. I'll call them and pay it directly over the phone." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "You don't trust me," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Dad," I said. "After the papers, no, I don't. But if Mom is sick, I will pay for her care. Just send me the bill." "I can't," he snapped. We have to pay cash up front to get the discount. If you pay the hospital directly, it will be more expensive. Just transfer the money to my account. Please, Avery, don't be like this, she's your mother." "I'm not sending cash to your account," I said firmly. "If you can't give me a bill number, I can't help." "You selfish bee," he started, then cut himself off. I heard him take a ragged breath. Fine, you want to know the truth? There is no procedure." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What?" "There is no heart procedure," he admitted. His voice was trembling now, stripped of all its usual authority. "It's the house, Avery. We're 3 months behind. They sent a notice of default. If we don't pay $3,000 by Friday, they start foreclosure proceedings. We lose the house. We lose everything." I sat in my office chair, staring at the gray carpet. He had lied about my mother having heart problems. He had used her health as a bargaining chip to extract cash from me. "So you lied," I said. "You lied about Mom dying to get money for the mortgage." "I had to," he cried. "You wouldn't listen, you wouldn't sign the papers. If you had just signed the papers in May, we wouldn't be here. This is your fault, my fault. It's my fault that you took out a second mortgage, I asked, my voice rising. It's my fault you spent money you didn't have. Where did that money go, Dad? Where did the $100,000 go? Life is expensive, he yelled. Lila's tuition, the car, the renovations, we did it for this family. You mean for Lila, I said. She's your sister, he shouted. She needed help. She's not like you, Avery. She's not cold, she needs support. I'm not cold, I said, tears finally stinging my eyes. I'm just the one you don't mind hurting. If we lose this house, he hissed, Lila has nowhere to go. She's moving back in next month. She and Blake are saving for the wedding. If we lose the house, you are putting your sister on the street. I'm hanging up now, I said. Avery, if you hang up, I hung up. I sat there for 10 minutes shaking. I didn't cry, I was past crying. I felt a new emotion settling in, something harder than sadness. It was clarity. They weren't just bad with money. They were drowning, and they were trying to use me as a life raft. But a life raft can only hold so much weight before it sinks too. I didn't send the money. A week later, I checked the public records online. A notice of default had been filed against my parents' property. The clock was ticking. They had 90 days to cure the default or the bank would sell the house. I watched and waited. I expected them to sell the cars. I expected them to downsize. I expected them to get second jobs. Instead, I saw Plan B. And Plan B was Lila. I monitored my family from a distance, like a detective watching a crime syndicate. I had blocked their numbers, but social media tells you everything you need to know if you look closely enough. Lila's Instagram was usually a curated feed of brunch photos, outfit checks, and selfies with her fiancé, Blake. Blake was a nice enough guy, a junior architect who seemed to adore the ground Lila walked on. He was quiet, a bit like me, which probably explained why Lila liked him. She needed an audience, not a competitor. In August, Lila's posts changed. First, it was a picture of her on my parents' front porch. The caption read, "So good to be home. Big changes coming soon. Number blessed, number new chapter." Then, a week later, a photo of her and Blake painting the guest room. Caption, "Making this place our own. So excited for the future." I zoomed in on the photo. In the background, sitting on the dresser, was a familiar folder. The same thick folder my father had tried to make me sign. My stomach churned. I called Sarah again. "Can they just give the house to her?" I asked. "If it's in foreclosure. They can't sell it with a clear title if there's a lien," Sarah explained. "But they can do a quitclaim deed. They can sign the deed over to her. It doesn't wipe out the mortgage, though. The debt stays attached to the property." "Does Lila know that?" I asked. "Does Lila know anything about finance?" Sarah countered. "No," I said. "She thinks escrow is a type of salad." "Here's what they're likely doing," Sarah theorized. "They are probably telling her, 'We are giving you the house as an early inheritance.' They sign the deed to her. Now she owns the house. But she also owns the problem. If the bank forecloses, it's her house they take, but more likely. They are trying to get her to refinance it in her name. But she has no income," I said. "She's an influencer with 2,000 followers. She works part-time at a boutique." "But Blake does," Sarah said. "Blake is an architect. He has income, he has credit." I stared at the wall. It all clicked. My parents had tried to dump the debt on me because I had the salary to handle it. I said no. So now they were pivoting. They were packaging the house as a gift to Lila and Blake. They would convince Blake to put the house in his name, or cosign, under the guise of building a life together. They were going to use Blake's credit to pay off their secret second mortgage. They were going to trap my sister and her fiancé in a $100,000 hole and call it a wedding present. It was diabolical, and it was exactly something my father would rationalize as keeping the family together. I spent the next 2 months gathering evidence. I felt like a spy. I downloaded the foreclosure notices from the county website. I found the record of the second mortgage, taken out 3 years ago for $120,000. I found the tax liens. I put everything into a plain manila folder. I debated telling Lila. I really did. I picked up the phone a dozen times. But every time I thought about it, I remembered how she had acted when I refused to pay for her grief vacation to Mexico. She had sent me a text that said, "You're jealous because Mom and Dad love me more. Enjoy your lonely life with your money." She was complicit. She had spent her whole life benefiting from my neglect. She had taken the money that should have been for my car. She had taken the attention. She had taken everything. But Blake was innocent. He was just a guy in love who was about to be financially ruined by my parents' grift. And then the invitation came. It was a group text from my mother. "Thanksgiving at the house. We have a very special announcement to celebrate Lila and Blake. Everyone must come. Avery, we hope you can put the past aside and join us for this joyous occasion. Family is everything. I stared at the message. A special announcement. They were going to do it. They were going to announce the transfer of the house at Thanksgiving. They were going to lock it in publicly, making it impossible for Blake to back out without looking like a monster. I typed back, I'll be there. I wasn't going for the turkey. I wasn't going for the reconciliation. I was going to stop a crime. I packed my bag. I put my nice dress on. I put the manila folder in my large tote bag. The drive home felt different this time. I wasn't scared. I wasn't anxious. I felt a cold, hard resolve. I was the independent one, right? The one who didn't need anything. Well, I didn't need their love anymore. And because I didn't need their love, they had no power over me. I pulled into the driveway. The house looked festive. Corn stalks on the porch. A wreath on the door. It looked like the perfect American home. Inside, it was a lie. I walked in. The smell of roasting turkey hit me. The house was full of people, my aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone was drinking wine and laughing. When I entered the living room, the conversation dipped for a second. My mother looked up from the cheese platter. She was wearing a new dress. She looked nervous. Avery, she said, her voice high and brittle. You made it. She came over to hug me. I let her. She smelled like expensive perfume and fear. Be nice today, she hissed in my ear as she hugged me. Don't ruin this for your sister. I'm just here to listen, I said. I saw Lila across the room. She was wearing a white dress, looking like a bride already. She was flashing her engagement ring. Blake was next to her, looking happy but slightly overwhelmed. Hey sis, Lila called out. She waved a glass of champagne. She didn't come over. She just waved from her throne on the sofa. I went to the kitchen to get a glass of water. My father was there carving the turkey. He froze when he saw me. Avery, he nodded. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Dad, I said, house looks good. It does, he said. It's a good house. A family house. Expensive to heat though, I said. His hand slipped on the knife. He looked at me sharply. We're managing. Are you? I asked. Go inside, he said. Dinner is in 10 minutes. I walked back into the dining room. I found my seat. It was at the far end of the table near the kids' section. Of course, I placed my tote bag on the floor next to my feet. I could feel the folder inside. It felt heavy, like a loaded gun. Dinner started. The usual small talk. My aunt asked about my job. I gave short answers. Everyone was focused on Lila. Lila's wedding, Lila's dress, Lila's future. Then the moment came. Lila tapped her spoon against her glass. Cling, cling, cling. The room went silent. My father looked pale. My mother looked triumphant. Lila stood up. She took a deep breath. I have big news, she said. And I knew it was time. The silence in the dining room was thick, the kind of silence that usually precedes a toast or a prayer. But this felt different. It felt staged. Lila stood at the head of the table, commanding the room. She was wearing Grandma Eleanor's pearl necklace, the one Grandma had promised to me when I was 12, but which had mysteriously ended up in Lila's jewelry box after the funeral. It gleamed against her white dress. My parents sat on either side of her, like royal guards. My mother was beaming, her eyes darting around the table to ensure everyone was watching. My father was staring fixedly at his wine glass, a bead of sweat trickling down his temple. I have big news, Lila repeated, her voice trembling with theatrical excitement. She reached down and grabbed Blake's hand. He smiled up at her, looking like a puppy who had just been patted on the head. As you all know, Lila began, Blake and I are getting married next summer. A ripple of polite applause. But we've been worrying about where to live, she continued. Houses are so expensive, and we want to start a family soon. She placed a hand on her flat stomach dramatically, though she wasn't pregnant. We want a real home. A place with history, a place with love. She paused for effect. So Mom and Dad have decided to do something incredible, something so generous I can't even believe it. She looked at our parents. My mother dabbed a fake tear from her eye. Mom and Dad are signing the house to me, Lila announced. The room gasped. They are moving into a condo downtown to enjoy their retirement, Lila gushed. And they are gifting the family home to Blake and me. We're going to be the new owners of the Dalton house. She turned her gaze directly to me. Her eyes were cold, despite her smile. And just so everyone knows, this is a decision we made as a family. Avery has her big career in the city. She has her own life. So, the house comes to me. Avery gets nothing of the property, but she gets the joy of visiting her nieces and nephews here one day. Avery gets nothing. She said it with such satisfaction. It wasn't just about getting the house. It was about ensuring I didn't get it. It was the final victory in a lifelong competition I hadn't even realized I was playing. Cheers erupted. My Aunt Carolyn clapped her hands together. "Oh, that is wonderful, keeping it in the family. Such a blessing," my cousin shouted. Blake stood up and kissed Lila. "Thank you, Thomas Marlene," he said earnestly to my parents. "I promise we'll take care of it. I've already got ideas for the renovations." Renovations? With what money? My mother looked at me. She lifted her chin, daring me to speak. She expected me to sulk. She expected me to storm out. That's what the jealous sister would do. But I didn't move. I felt that same cold calm from the funeral wash over me. I reached down to my tote bag. I felt the smooth surface of the manila folder. I pulled it out and set it on the tablecloth next to my plate. I didn't open it yet. I just let it sit there. Then I picked up my fork. I stared at my father. He looked up and saw me. He saw the folder. His face went gray. He knew. I let the cheering die down. I waited until Lila sat back down, basking in the glow of adoration. Then I spoke. "That's a lovely story, Lila," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the chatter like a knife. The table went quiet. Everyone looked at me. "Avery," my mother warned, her voice tight. Don't what?" I asked, looking at her. "Don't congratulate my sister." I turned back to my father. "Dad," I said, "before Blake starts planning renovations, should I tell them, or will you?" "Tell us what?" Lila snapped. "Don't be bitter, Avery, just because you chose your career over family. This isn't about me," I said calmly. I kept my eyes on my father. "Dad," my father opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He looked like he was having a stroke. He shook his head slightly, a silent plea. "Please don't." But I remembered the transfer of liability papers. I remembered the lie about my mother's heart attack. I remembered the years of being the independent one while they drained me dry. "Okay," I said. "I'll tell them." I stood up. I picked up the folder. "This is a wonderful gift," I said, holding the folder up. "Really generous. But I think Blake needs to know exactly what he's accepting." "Sit down, Avery," my mother shrieked. She stood up, knocking her chair over. "You are ruining Thanksgiving. You are drunk." "I haven't had a drop to drink," I said. I opened the folder. "I have some documents here, public records. Anyone can find them if they know where to look." I pulled out the first paper. "This is a notice of default," I read. "Dated 3 months ago. The Dalton house is in pre-foreclosure. The bank has already started the process to seize the property." The room went dead silent. You could hear the hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen. Lila laughed, a nervous, high-pitched sound. "That's a lie, Mom, Dad." My parents didn't answer. They were statues of shame. "It's not a lie," I continued. "And here is the reason why." I pulled out the second document. 3 years ago, Mom and Dad took out a second mortgage on this house. They cashed out $120,000 of equity. I looked at Blake. "Blake," I said, "the house isn't paid off. It's drowning. There is over $100,000 of debt attached to this property, plus roughly $8,000 in back taxes and late fees." Blake's face went pale. He looked at my father. "Thomas, is that true?" It's complicated," my father stammered. "The market. We had expenses. And here is the best part," I said, my voice hardening. 6 months ago, they tried to get me to sign papers to transfer that debt to my name. They told me it was refinancing. It wasn't. It was a liability transfer. I refused." I turned to Lila. "So now they are giving it to you, but they can't just give you the house. The bank won't release the title until the debt is paid. So let me guess. The plan is for Blake to buy the house from them, or refinance it in his name to get a fresh start." Lila looked at Mom. You said it was a gift. You said we just had to take over the utility bills." "We were going to handle it," Mom cried. "We were going to pay the monthly payments. We just needed the loan in someone else's name because of your father's credit score." "You were going to put $100,000 of debt in Blake's name?" I asked. "Knowing you can't pay it, knowing you are already 3 months behind." "We are a family," Mom yelled. "We help each other. We were going to figure it out." "No," I said. "You were going to drown them." I tossed the folder onto the center of the table. It slid across the tablecloth and stopped right in front of Blake's plate. The red Notice of Default stamp was visible on the top page. "Happy Thanksgiving," I said. Blake picked up the paper. His hands were shaking. He read it. Then he read the second one. He looked up at my father. The respect in his eyes was gone, replaced by horror. "You lied to me," Blake whispered. "Last week, when we talked about the basement remodel, you knew you didn't even own the house anymore. You knew the bank was taking it." "Blake, listen," my father started. Blake stood up. He threw his napkin on the table. "I'm an architect. Blake said, his voice shaking with rage. I know what a lien is. I know what foreclosure does to credit. If I had signed those papers next week, you would have ruined my career. You would have bankrupted me. We wouldn't let that happen, Lila cried. She grabbed his arm. Blake, baby, we can fix this, Mom said. Blake pulled his arm away. He looked at Lila with a look I had never seen before. It wasn't love. It was pity and disgust. You knew, he said to her. I didn't, Lila sobbed. I swear, I just thought. They said it was a gift. You're just like them, Blake said. You want the fairy tale and you don't care who pays for it. He turned and walked out of the dining room. Blake, Lila screamed. She ran after him. Blake, wait! We heard the front door slam. Then the sound of a car engine starting and tires screeching on the pavement. Lila came back into the room, wailing. She collapsed into her chair, burying her face in her hands. My aunt and uncle were whispering furiously to each other. My cousins were staring at their plates. My mother stood up. Her face was twisted with hate. She pointed a shaking finger at me. Are you happy? She screamed. Are you happy now? You destroyed your sister's life, you jealous, hateful little. I saved him, I said, cutting her off. I saved Blake, and honestly, I saved Lila too. Because if she had signed those papers, she would be in debt for the rest of her life. Get out, my father said. His voice was low, guttural. Get out of my house. It's not your house, Dad, I said quietly. Not anymore. The bank owns it. I picked up my tote bag. I didn't look back. I walked to the front door. But before I could leave, there was a knock, a loud, authoritative knock. I frowned. I wasn't expecting anyone else. I opened the door. Standing there was a woman in a gray suit. She had a badge on her belt. Behind her was a uniformed police officer. I'm looking for Thomas and Marlene Dalton, she said. I stepped aside. They're in the dining room, I said. The consequences weren't over. They were just beginning. The woman in the suit stepped into the hallway. The police officer stood behind her, his hand resting on his belt. The festive atmosphere of Thanksgiving evaporated instantly. The smell of turkey now seemed sickly and heavy. I am Officer Dana Whitford, the woman said. She held up a badge. I'm an investigator with the State Department of Financial Regulation. I need to speak with Thomas and Marlene Dalton. My father stood up. He knocked his wine glass over. Red wine spilled across the white tablecloth like a wound. This is a private dinner, he stammered. You can't just barge in here. We can when there is a warrant, Officer Whitford said. Her voice was calm, professional, and terrifying. She walked into the dining room. She looked at the chaotic scene, Lila sobbing, Blake's empty chair, the spilled wine, and the manila folder sitting in the center of the table. We have received multiple flags regarding loan applications submitted under this address, Whitford said, specifically regarding attempts to secure credit using the identity of a deceased person, Eleanor Dalton, and attempted identity theft regarding an Avery Dalton. The room gasped again. This time it wasn't a shocked gasp. It was a horrified one. I felt a chill run down my spine. I knew about the mortgage. I didn't know about Grandma. Grandma, I whispered. We have evidence that Social Security checks were being cashed after the date of death, Whitford continued, looking directly at my mother, and that a home equity line of credit was applied for in her name 3 weeks after her funeral. My mother let out a wail. She collapsed into her chair, covering her face. I told you, she screamed at my father. I told you it wouldn't work. Shut up, Marlene, my father roared. The family, my aunts, uncles, and cousins, recoiled. They looked at my parents as if they were strangers. These were the people who had always praised Thomas and Marlene as the perfect couple, the pillars of the family. Now, they saw them for what they were, desperate criminals. That's not true, Aunt Carolyn stood up, her voice shook. Thomas, tell them it's not true, you wouldn't steal from your own mother. My father didn't answer. He slumped into his chair, looking suddenly very old and very small. We need you to come down to the station to answer some questions, the police officer said. He stepped forward. Now. I can't leave, Mom sobbed. It's Thanksgiving, my daughter is getting married. Your daughter's fiancé just left, I said quietly. Mom looked at me, her eyes were filled with pure venom. This is your fault, she hissed. You called them, you reported us. I didn't report the Social Security fraud, I said honestly. I didn't know you stooped that low. But I'm not surprised. The police officer motioned for them to stand up. Let's go, he said. It was a scene I will never forget. My parents, dressed in their holiday best, being escorted out of their own front door. They weren't in handcuffs yet, but the implication was clear. As they passed me in the hallway, my father stopped. He looked at me. There was no apology in his eyes, only resentment. You were always ungrateful, he muttered. We did everything for this family. You did everything for yourselves, I said. And you used the family to pay for it. They walked out. The door closed. The silence that followed was heavy. Lila was still crying at the table, her head on her arms. My relatives stood around awkwardly, unsure of what to do. Aunt Carolyn looked at me. She looked at the folder on the table. "Avery," she said softly, "did you know about Alina?" "No," I said, but I knew they were desperate. And I knew they would sacrifice anyone to keep up appearances. I walked over to the table and picked up my folder. I didn't need to prove anything else. The police had done it for me. I looked at Lila. Her shoulders were shaking. She was alone. Her fiancé was gone. Her parents were detained. Her house was in foreclosure. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to leave. Part of me, the part that had been hurt for 20 years, wanted to walk out and let her deal with the mess. But I looked at the transfer of liability papers in my folder. Lila hadn't signed them. She was safe from the debt. I had saved her, even if she hated me for it. "Lila," I said. She didn't look up. "Go away." "I'm leaving," I said. "But you need to know something. Blake didn't leave because he stopped loving you. He left because he was scared. If you want to fix it, you have to be honest. For the first time in your life, you have to be completely honest." She didn't answer. I turned and walked out the door. The crisp November air hit my face. It felt clean. It felt like freedom. I got in my car and drove away from the Dalton house. I didn't look back in the rearview mirror. I knew the house wouldn't be there much longer anyway. The fallout was fast and brutal. The Dalton house was foreclosed on 3 months later. The bank took it. The gift my parents had tried to give Lila turned out to be nothing more than an eviction notice. I saw the listing online. It was sold at auction for a fraction of what they owed. My parents were charged with fraud. Because it was a first offense, and they paid back the stolen Social Security money by liquidating their retirement accounts, they avoided prison time. But they were sentenced to probation and community service. Their reputation in town was destroyed. They moved into a small, 2-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. I don't visit them. I don't call them. They still blame me. I heard from a cousin that my mother tells people I set them up. She tells a version of the story where I am the villain who was jealous of Lila's happiness. I'm okay with being the villain in their story. I'm the hero in mine. Lila had the hardest road. Blake didn't come back. The engagement ended. He couldn't get past the lies. He told her that he couldn't build a life with someone who had been complicit in trying to ruin him, even if she claimed ignorance. Lila was devastated. She lost the house, the fiancé, and the image of the perfect family she had clung to for so long. She had to move into a studio apartment. She had to get a full-time job as a receptionist because my parents could no longer fund her lifestyle. For 6 months, we didn't speak. Then, one rainy Tuesday, my phone rang. It was Lila. I debated answering, but I swiped green. "Hello, hi Avery." Her voice was different, smaller, humbler. "Hi Lila. I wanted to say thank you," she said. She sounded like she was crying. "For what?" "For stopping me," she said. "I went to a lawyer just to see. He told me that if I had signed those papers, if Blake and I had taken the title, we would have been liable for everything. We would have filed for bankruptcy by now." "I know," I said. "Why didn't you just let us drown?" she asked. "After how we treated you." "Because you're my sister," I said. "And because I didn't want them to win. I didn't want them to use you like they tried to use me." There was a long silence. "I'm in therapy," Lila said. "I'm realizing a lot of things. Mom and Dad, they aren't who I thought they were." "No," I said, "they aren't." "I'm sorry, Avery," she whispered. "For the money, for the car, for everything, I was a brat. I liked being the favorite. I didn't care who it hurt." "Thank you for saying that," I said, and I felt a knot in my chest loosen. That was all I had ever wanted. Acknowledgement. We aren't best friends. We probably never will be. The damage is deep, but we talk now. We text. We are building something new, something real on the ashes of the fake life our parents built. As for me, I stayed in Chicago. I got a promotion. I bought my own condo in my name with my money and zero debt. I have a new circle of friends. I spent Thanksgiving with them this year. We had a potluck. There were no speeches. There were no grand announcements. There was just food, laughter, and honesty. I learned that you can't save people who don't want to be saved. My parents chose their path. They chose lies over love. They chose image over integrity. But I chose the truth. And the truth set me free. Avery looks directly into the camera. She is sitting in her own living room. It is simple, clean, and bright. She looks calm. Her voice is steady, lacking the anger she held onto for so long. Families are supposed to be our safe harbor. We are told from the time we are born that blood is thicker than water, and that family comes first. But what happens when the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones you need protection from? What happens when family comes first, really means you come last. It took me a long time to realize that my parents' behavior wasn't my fault. I spent years trying to be good enough, smart enough, and successful enough to earn their love. I thought if I just solved their problems, they would finally see me, but they didn't want to see me. They wanted to use me. There is a difference between supporting your family and enabling their destruction. There is a difference between love and transaction. If you are the independent one, the strong one, the one everyone relies on but no one takes care of, I want you to hear this. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to walk away from a table where love is no longer being served. Speaking the truth about your family doesn't make you a traitor. It makes you a survivor. It hurts to cut those ties. It hurts to be the one who shatters the illusion. But the peace you find on the other side, it is worth every single tear. I broke the cycle. I stopped the lies. And in doing so, I found my own voice. I want to know about you. Have you ever felt like the outsider in your own home? Have you ever had to stand alone to do the right thing? Tell me your story in the comments below. Let's remind each other that we aren't alone. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to choose yourself. I'm Avery. Thanks for listening.